الله أكبر الله أكبر، أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، قد قامت الصلاة، قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر، لا إله إلا الله.
الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. والضحى والليل إذا سجى، ما ودعك ربك وما قلى، وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى، ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى. ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى، ووجدك ضالا فهدى، ووجدك عائلا فأغنى. فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر، وأما السائل فلا تنهر، وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. ألم نشرح لك صدرك، ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي ينقض ظهرك، ورفعنا لك ذكرك. فإن مع العسر يسرا، إن مع العسر يسرا، فإذا فرغت فانصب، وإلى ربك فارغب. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله.
to... It's working, but okay, got it. Yeah, okay. Okay, Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. 7:45. Okay. So we have until 7:45, inshallah? Looks like? Okay, so what we'll do, Assalamu alaikum, my name is Adeel Zeb. I wanted to do this topic because, Halloween is coming up. I know we're all really concerned about what's happening right in Palestine. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll do a dua at the end of this presentation for that. But today we're focusing on the Islamic lens. We're talking about jinns, magic, and witches, and all these things, sorcery, and so forth. So, as some background on this topic and why I went into it, I'm doing my PhD currently right now in social justice and Islam at Claremont Graduate University, alhamdulillah, may Allah accept. And I took a class on magic, sorcery, witches, all these things in the program. And then I did research to understand from an Islamic lens, how do we look at all of this that's happening, right? So the first thing first we'll cover magic or sorcery, and then we'll go to the jinn, then we'll go to witches, then we'll have 5 minutes for the Q&A, inshallah. Questions and answers at the end, inshallah. Okay, bismillah. So, in general, magic is haram, right? And it's very hard to argue there is white magic. They're saying there's white magic and there's like dark magic. It's very hard to argue. The only type of magic that you could argue from a very traditional and conservative Islamic lens is if someone says they're practicing magic, but they have like a herb shop, right? So you go to the mountain and you say, okay, I have like asthma problems. I can't breathe too well. They give you an herb. They say, put this herb on your chest and rub it. And then they're known as the witch or the sorcerer of the mountain. Not doing anything that's haram. They're just giving you like a herbal medicine, right? It's like herbal tea. But they call themselves a witch. And people think it's magic. Does that make sense? So it's almost like your perception of the word can make it like you think it's magic, but really it's just so. The problem, but then if you say you believe that some kind of spirit or energy thing is coming in and giving you the healing through the herb on your chest, then that's where it's haram. Does that make sense? Is that clear? Difference between the two of them, right? Okay. So other than that, pretty much in general, everything else is haram, right? And we'll go over why these are bad. The main reason why magic, if you want reasoning for it, outside of Allah calling it kufr in the Quran, in the Surah Al-Baqarah in 102nd ayah, we're talking about Sulaiman alayhi salam being accused of using magic. And he said he did not become a disbeliever. So that's the evidence that it's disbelief. But what you do when people do magic, they call on others outside of Allah. This is the big, huge problem with it. You're calling something outside of Allah. If you talk to like witches, actual witches, in my class I also interviewed a sorceress. It was like a female witch. She's like a young woman. Talked to her about what she does. But even from witch scholars, right? They'll tell you that it is most magic is very violent. The whole maqsad, the whole goal, is to do something harmful to somebody else, generally speaking, right? I mentioned the whole herbal remedy stuff. Outside of that, somebody is jealous of somebody else. They want them to lose their job. They want them to have children. They want the marriage to break up. They will go and they will pay someone to work on to take care of this, and then we'll get the process in a moment. But most of magic is very dark and very violent, and because you don't ask the person, right? It's like you're paying someone to harm someone, but you don't ask the person you're harming. It's okay if I do this to you. So it's like it's type of magical abuse, so to speak. There were some scholars who had mentioned that you can combat magic with magic, but it's not really. It's like a slippery slope. It's a very dangerous kind of realm. So we don't really get into that. So the best type of cure for the magic, which we'll talk more about inshallah, is the Quran. The Quran is the best healing method, the best kind of protection for yourself. The Quran and dua are the two main weapons, so to speak. Now, there was a story actually a video online on Muslim Matters of this Pakistani author, and she sends her husband to the graveyard in Pakistan and to look up like a lot of these different spells that have been cast on people. And then she sees that there's pieces of paper. On the paper, there's blood on the paper, and there's people's names in the family, right? And there's these knots and things, right? So it's very clear someone had wanted this family to suffer, and they put the names on it and had the blood, and then they work from there. Also, what we know, Ibn Qudama in his book Al-Mughni mentions that one of the ways to stop sorcery is to bury your fingernails and your hair, right? And what we learned in my class was that actually, yeah, that's what they use. They use your fingernails and they use your hair to do spells on you. So be careful of how you leave your hair and your fingernails, people, because that is a way to do magic. And the Prophet ﷺ also himself was bewitched by one of the most famous magicians in Medina, and he also used hair, the Prophet ﷺ himself, right? So we also learned that love spells are very real, and what they call necromancy. Necromancy is when you raise the dead spirits, right? So these are two types of magic that actually are happening these days, right? And one of the ways that you do a love potion, you get someone to fall in love with somebody else, it's a very violent art, right? So you take the bone of children to make the spell. It's horrible, right? And so the Prophet ﷺ himself mentioned to not let your children go out at Maghrib and after. Be mindful of them. And we learned in the class that the witches do go out at night to get children, right? So you see how it's kind of connecting what you're learning in the class and learning in the hadith. It's very kind of scary, but it's also very real, right? There is Ibn Khaldun. He wrote a famous book. Which was his famous book he wrote? Muqaddama, right? So kind of traveled around the world, sociologist, and he mentions that his point of view is interesting. He said that there's illicit magic and illicit magic. So there's magic that's bad, like summoning demons, planetary control. This is bad. And he has a different point of view. He says that there's licit magic. It's like dreams or the evil eye or something that happens kind of passively. Like you're not actively doing it, it's just happening passively. But he did say that the prophetic miracles, they're not magic, right? So if you look at what the prophets did, if you're an outsider, it looks like magic. You look at it, I mean, we're not calling it, again, it's the words, right? But if you look at Isa alayhi salam could raise the dead by Allah's will. He could cure the leper, cure the blind by Allah's will, right? If you look at the story of Musa alayhi salam, right, he threw his staff down, it becomes a snake, okay? It looks like it's, right? But even fascinating enough that people of Egypt were specialists in magic. But when they saw what Allah could do, they knew this wasn't magic. And they became Muslim. SubhanAllah, right? And what's interesting on that note was that they were promised they were going to have a high payout from the Pharaoh. This is a big money maker for them. It's their Super Bowl. We're going to make a lot of money on this, And what happened was they ended up, they're like, this is not from us. And then they bowed and they became Muslims. Sulaiman alayhi salam, the Prophet Solomon alayhi salam, could control the jinn. He can control the wind. He controlled birds, right? So that was kind of his gift that he had, but he wasn't using magic like through the jinn. Sulaiman's power came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All the Prophet's power comes from Allah. Very clear, make a clear point, right? Another point that people think that they do nowadays is called astral projection, where you take, like, your inside comes out, like your soul or your aura, and you can, like, look at people and you can go to different places and all this stuff like that, right? So Islamically, the only thing I think we have in that regard is sleep. When we go to sleep, it's like a small death. Allah says in Surah, in 39th Surah and 42nd ayah, it is Allah who takes away the souls of people at the hour of their death, takes away the time of sleep, the souls of those who have not died, right? So it's a small death you have at that time, and you can go from there. Now, of the countries that believe in magic, according to a Pew study, number 1 is Tanzania, and number 2, 92% Tanzania. That's like the entire country, right? Tunisia is 89%, also almost the entire country. And Morocco is 78%. I remember when I was like asking around one time to get married, and then the guys warned me. They were like, the magic is very prominent there. Be very careful. And then women told me the magic is very common among us. Be very careful. I was like, okay, all right. Anyways, so we mentioned Prophet ﷺ himself became bewitched, and some of the opinions is that Surah Al-Falaq and Surah Al-Nas, the end of the Quran, which a lot of us know memorize these surahs, were revealed the time that he was bewitched, right? And so Surah Al-Falaq, Surah Al-Nas, the last 2 ayahs of Surah Al-Baqarah, Ayatul Kursi, Fatiha, these are all great protections from you, for you, against any kind of magic or things that are happening around you, right? So it's always good to kind of do that, because sometimes people, they do the hasad and the evil eye, the ayn, without even like intentionally wanting to do it. You know what I mean? Sometimes you can have envy of someone and you can give them like, the evil eye and not even want to do it. It just kind of happens. You know what I mean? So it's good to read these surahs for yourself and your families. As far as the belief in jinn, Bangladesh was number 2, with 84% of the population we believed in jinn. Morocco was number 1, again, 86% belief in jinn. And then Tunisia is, again, number 3 on there. Pakistan is 77, Malaysia 77. Those are the big hitters. Most of the scholars believe that the jinn can do like possession. There's a small group of like Mu'tazilites and others, but it's generally speaking, the belief is definitely there in the Muslim tradition. If you ever see something you think is like a jinn or something, then you say, in the name of Allah, I am a servant of Allah, get out, O enemy of Allah. That's kind of what you want to do, right? So you have to, it's like, how they say, if you confront a bear to get like strong and tall when you see the bear, it's kind of like that. It's like you want to like be strong about it and remember Allah, because that's kind of their weakness in terms of the jinn, right? And the more pious person you are, the less the effect of the sihr will have upon you. So how does jinn work? How does operation work? So number 1, the jinn are like the mafia, right? So you have like the big boss and the small boss, small jinn, so forth. And sometimes the jinn itself that you encounter is working for the big boss, and they don't want to do what you say because they're scared of the big boss, right? And so it's also very important. They can travel almost like superheroes, like the Flash, very fast back and forth, transport big objects, shapeshift, imitate voices of people. So you'll like, if you ever see in any kind of like TV shows or movies, the person will speak in the voice of the daughter that died, right? That's because the jinn is doing that. The jinn can imitate the voices. They can imitate people's bodies. Background? Yeah. So like if you see a dead person's come to life or their body, that's just the jinn taking the shape of the person. And you say, well, how do they know so much about that person, right? Because they were the jinn that was hanging out with the person. So they can tell you like, oh yeah, in second grade we went to like McDonald's and like we had a rat in our burger. Like, how did you possibly know that? Because he was a jinn, right? Turn people into animals, even like a donkey. There's a book about this. It's called The Golden, and then Donkey, but there's another word for it. But that's just another thing. So, but they're thousands of years old. There is different opinion on how magic actually came about on Earth. But generally speaking, the angels, Haruts and Maruts, came, and they either taught humans, said that we were a trial, or taught the jinn. The jinn taught humans, and then we were people are magic. So there's all kinds of magic in the world. Different types of ways of doing it, different cultures, it's all over the world. And the sorceress that I interviewed, she was studying an art from West Africa called voodoo, right? And then, but she couldn't do all the arts that she's used to because you have to have certain materials over there from West Africa. So they call it hoodoo here, not voodoo. The jinn are intellectually inferior to humans. They're physically strong, but not as smart as us. So they're almost like childlike. So you see like, sometimes they get stubborn. If you ever see exorcisms, they're kind of like not leaving the body. If you've ever seen in movies or shows or whatever, they don't want to leave the body because they're like children. They're kind of like children are like, I don't want to leave. You know, so like they become kind of like that. The process is this. Somebody wants to get something done. They want this marriage to end. They go to the sahib, the sorcerer, and so they pay the sorcerer $100, $1,000, whatever it is. Okay? The sorcerer then goes to the jinn and bows to the jinn. So they leave Islam. It's not like they can do, this is like they're out of Islam when they're doing this. The jinn feels superior that I'm being worshipped, and then they do whatever that person says. Breaks the family up, causes an accident, whatever it is. So that's kind of how the process goes. Now, of course, non-Muslim witches don't use the word jinn. They say like dark forces, because they don't have this term. But we have this term. That's how we can explain it. If you look at like almost all the cultures in the world and religions in the world, they all have something like this. Ghost, demon, jinn, some spirit. It's everywhere you go. So what is the best way to prevent? Number one is Quran. You have an amulet. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal himself, made an amulet, and he would make amulets with Quran and hang them, so people can hang on their necks. You can also make dua in tajud, in sujood, sajda, make dua to Allah. One of the narrations from Prophet ﷺ, when he was bewitched, did a lot of dua to Allah to cure him of the bewitchment. You can also write Quran on paper, cut it, put it into water, and drink it. So I'm going to go into witches now. Women have been historically attacked for being witches. It's generally been an attack on women. These attacks happen because women were unmarried, women of color, poor, older, or they were jealous of the revenge of other women. There were two inquisitions. One was, they're both around the same time, I think 1498, 1497. In Spain, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, both from Catholic Church monarchs, and the Pope at the time, issued out, on one hand, kicked the Muslims and the Jews out of Spain, Andalusia, and they made Spain. Other step, get the witches out, all from the Catholic Church. So women were attacked in all kinds of ways. One Catholic priest authored the Malleus Maleficarum. That was a guide to interrogate women suspected of witchcraft. Then in the US, you had the Salem witch trials. You heard of the Salem witch trials? They say that in school, right? So that was from the Protestant movement. Also Christians, the Puritans from the Protestants. And the Puritans are like Salafis. They're very much pure belief. So they go after like the witches, and so the Catholic Church would go into cities, mountains, villages, trying to find women who were doing witchcraft and then execute them after trial. Witches today, it's a business. People have Instagram accounts, they have their witch stores, go in there, I need this to happen, pay me this money. You can do a counter spell. Someone witched me, okay, here's a counter spell to beat that spell. And it's now recognized as a religion with Wiccans, Wiccans, Wiccans. So that brings us to Samhain, which is October 31st, which is what? Halloween, right. So, now here is the problem with Halloween, is Samhain is a religious pagan festival that originated from the ancient Celtic spiritual tradition. October 31st, November 1st, and they welcome in the dark half of the year. They believe that the barriers between the physical world and spiritual world break down, allowing more interaction between humans and the denizens of the outer world. Okay, so that's the problem with Halloween, right? Because on one hand, it's like, what's the problem with, like, you know, wearing a Spider-Man costume, getting candy from your neighbors? But the fact that it's still a religious holiday from witches, that's a little bit where I kind of have a little bit of problem with celebrating it. Like, I have a problem with celebrating Christmas or other, like, whatever holidays there are, because they're religious holidays of other traditions, right? In Saudi Arabia, there's an article in The Atlantic that the Saudi, like, religious police, they'll go and they'll do witch hunts. Or they'll go and find, like, if somebody buys some meat and they cut it, they don't say Bismillah, there's a sign, this is possible witch stuff happening here. So they look for things like that, you know, evidence. The thing with witchcraft, it's like being a detective. There's always evidence of the crime, okay? So, like, you see things. You see, like, a blood of hair and blood. You see, like, certain things happening, like weird things in the house. There's going to be some evidence that someone did the witchcraft. It's not like it's just some, like, thing that the evidence disappears in the air. It's going to be somewhere, right? That's how you kind of figure it out. In Niger, they have labeled, in the community in Niger, the Muslims there are labeled as blood-sucking spirits, like vampires, and, you know, witch hunt kind of thing for Muslims there. Demonize Muslims, make them seem like vampires and witches, and then you can persecute them, right? So this happens today. Now, how do they become witches now? Usually online. There's forums, there's meetups. You know, you can go meet up, witches, the forums. You can join clubs at school, right? And then a lot of their families are not okay with it. And so they kind of hide it from their families and learn from the forums how to do spells, how to do this, how to do that. Again, if you essentially look at the research about the evil eye, 90% of Tunisians believe in the evil eye, 80% Tanzania. So it's kind of more common in these regions, right? Now, Quranic verses on the wall. This is a lot more common in more countries, right? Palestine, 91%. Egypt, 85%. Lebanon, 93%. Tunisia, 95%. Iraq, 96%. Maghreb, Morocco, 96%. Pakistan, 90%. Thailand, 95%. Malaysia, 97%. So it's very, very common to have Quran on the wall. Okay, exorcisms, right? They are real. Prophet ﷺ himself performed exorcism on a Bedouin. Usually what happens, people recite Quran, sometimes touch the person, they beat the jinn out of them, literally, right? So that's the thing that happens as well. In terms of witnessing an exorcism, half of Ethiopia has witnessed one, apparently, according to the Pew study, 48, right, percent. That's a lot of people. That's just like, he did and he did, he did and he did, so that's a lot. Other countries are a little bit less, a lot of them are African countries. So, what do y'all think about this topic so far? Let's ask the question about Halloween. Do you think Halloween should be celebrated or no? Anyone disagree? It's okay, you can disagree. Yeah. I think it's good to have some kind of alternatives for it. Give children some opportunity to have like candy or sweets at some point somehow. Also, like maybe in the springtime, have like a costume party. It's not Halloween time, but like later on. But just kind of they can have some fun costumes. They can have some fun, but generally no. Any other questions or thoughts from the lecture that you think was? I'm sorry? What time? Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah, go ahead, please. Did study, yes. Yeah. Yeah. So just to be clear, I didn't study magic. I studied, okay, it's like I didn't study I didn't go with the magician and be like, okay, how do you do this? And then I didn't count this, right? I studied that what they do. Yeah. Just to be clear, there's a difference. No. So I guess the first question is, why did I take this class? Why did I study, right? Yeah. So basically, I had to take some religion course at the time in that semester, and out of the courses, this one seemed to be the most I think interesting one that were being offered during that time, right? It was like, I don't know, like Mormon stuff or, women of the Torah who had kings, and it was like not too exciting. So I was like, okay, let me see what this is about. And, when I was mentioning the hadith that were matching what was the witches were doing and saying, that kind of made me feel stronger about the hadith, like, oh my goodness, you know what I mean? Like, this is powerful stuff, right? What was your second question? Experienced. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think, yeah, I witnessed, yeah. I think one time something weird, it's it's hard to put my finger on it, right? Unless you see something like, appear, then fly around. That's like very clear. But other things are a little less obvious, and you're kind of like, maybe that was it. So I was going to send somebody a gift. So I go to, it's like, we weren't friends anymore, but it was their birthday, so I was like, okay, let's get them a gift or something was coming up. So I went to buy it. There was 2 dolls, 2 small dolls. They moved down. And I was like, whatever. So then I put the payment information, right? And then I'm about to push send. They moved again. And I was like, okay, well, we're not going to send this gift. So it's like this. Yeah. I don't go that room. I don't go back to that room too much. So it's another house. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just, I don't think that there's anything that I learned that was contradicting anything in the Quran or Sunnah, right? Yeah, nothing that I learned was contradicting, right? Yeah, so meaning that like nothing that I learned was like the Quran and the Hadith and the scholars were all agreeing that this thing is a real thing, right? It's just a little bit more in depth about from their perspective on how it happened. So if I go out somewhere, I'll read, Quran. If I get scared, Ayatul Kursi, Falak and Nas, you know what I mean? So I don't, like what I learned, obviously those things can be haram, right? When I say it doesn't contradict, I'm saying that Islam also says that they exist and say that they are haram. Does that make sense? So that's kind of, it's like, it almost makes it more, I don't want to say it makes my faith stronger, but in some ways I think it did, right? It's when I was in my master's program, we studied a lot about Christianity as well, right? And you see how much they worship Jesus, right? And then so when you read Quran and Allah says, La taqulu thalatha, don't say 3 and all this, and Jesus saying, I never said I was the son of God, subhan. So it affirms, it makes it stronger. You're like, wow, this is like we were told this in the Quran and Hadith and from the scholars, and then I'm seeing Christians doing it. Like not just doing it, but insisting on it, right? Like you can't have a dua in some Christian circles, your dua cannot be accepted, your Christian dua, unless you say in the name of Jesus, right? So it's that apparent. So I think I've answered your question. I'm not finished. Yeah, tell me. That they're real? Yeah, they're real, yeah. 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 Unfortunately, there are Muslims who do hybrid models, so to speak. They'll take the magic and they'll take Quran and they'll do a hybrid model, which is wrong, obviously, but it does happen. It is common in some countries, very common, you know, and so that's a problem. So I can understand your point. Magic? So what's the interesting is I'm not sure about Muslims yet, but I know Christians are doing it now, like former Christians. Like the sorceress I interviewed, she was a former Christian. Her family is strict Christian, and she left it for this. And then she tried different things. She tried different, tarot cards and all these things, got into these things, and eventually she became a witch herself, right? And that's why I'm strict about things. Like when I tell people like you shouldn't watch shows like Harry Potter and all this, because they're like, well, what's wrong with Harry Potter? We love Harry Potter. Everyone loves Harry Potter, and I'm like, because you're instilling ideas in your mind that could be activated later. And that's what happened with this woman who's a sorceress now. She's like, I watched the movies and the shows, and then I started to do those things: Ouija board, tarot cards, all this, and then she got into it, right? And so that's, I think, this lecture is kind of designed to be more preventative, right? This is out there, it's happening, it's starting to catch on. It's happening in Saudi Arabia. I don't know if it's happening in the US, but yeah. There's a whole article from the Atlantic online. You can read it when you go home tonight. But I was saying that the Saudi police send in the Saudi Defense Police in to do the investigations on who's doing what. So, yeah. 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 Yeah, some scholars will say that. It could be both. It could be both, right? Because yeah, yeah. No, there's some scholars do say that jinn is an explanation for aliens. Some possibly you could have other species on other planets or whatever it is. I don't know. It's possible because the alameen meaning the universe, not just the world. Allahu alam, I don't know, but it's possible. So, the jinn thing, there's some scholars who say that though. Some scholars do say that jinn could be explanation for aliens. They don't have as high intellect as us. Yeah. They have some intellect, not like totally, right, robots, but they're not, and I think that's kind of the jealousy factor, right? Starting from Shaitan, from Iblis, the devil, from the beginning, where he was jealous of Adam, when Adam taught the names of all, and he was kind of stumped and didn't want to worship Adam, bow to Adam, and Yeah, yeah. I think there is some kind of a deity luck or something too. Some kind of a deity luck god or something too. So you're very right. Blessed is a better way to say it. Yeah, you're right. SubhanAllah. Yeah. Uh, yeah. Yeah. Also, it's very hard to interview them because they're very secretive because they don't know what your niyyah is. Why are you interviewing us? What's yours? Are you, the what is also like a thing, you know? So the only way I got to her was because she was a friend of my student, and then I got to her. Sorry, what's the question? Sorry. She's like a regular woman. She's like young. She's like 23 years old. You know, she has a job. You know, she's regular. She's not scary with like a thing or you know, broom and you know. She's 23-year-old. You know, she's working. You know. Fast. Compared to angels, that's a good question. Yeah, speed of light is what we're taught is how fast they go. But I'd never know if an angel and a jinn had a race. That'd be kind of cool thing to see. Maybe next life we can ask Allah, can you have a little jinn race? We had to raise this, walk, look, and see how it goes. But they're pretty fast, yeah. Yeah, kind of like Superman. He's fast and he's strong, both. It's Fast and Furious. Should call the lecture Fast and Furious. That's funny. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, good question. So, sorry if I didn't mention this, but yeah, so like if magic is haram, then why do the angels teach magic, right? So, teach magic. Right? So that was what I was alluding to earlier, that either they had taught. Is the whole thing gonna go, or just the first two? Okay, all right. So, yeah. So, it's a good question. Sorry, I must have missed it when I was telling the story. So, they were sent as a trial, as a fitna. Okay. They warned people. They said this is not a good thing, right? And then it was a trial for them, but they still wanted to learn. So there's two opinions. Either the people learned directly from the angels, or they learned from the jinn, who were taught from the angels. But still, they were sent as like a trial. You know, so sometimes Allah sends trials to us, to test us, kind of like, so don't go near it, don't do it, but it's like there. So, but it's definitely bad and haram. Yeah. Solomon alayhi salam. The ayah is around the time of, the ayah is in, the ayah is in Surah Al-Baqarah, 102nd ayah, and it mentions there. The exact time, I want to say it's with Suleiman, but I may be wrong on that, so I can get back to you on that one, inshallah. But I think it was before Suleiman, actually. I'll double check. But the ayah is with Sulaiman. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, they do. They do it. Do they beat them? Yes, they beat them. Does it work? I don't. You seen it? Did it work? Yeah. So did the jinn leave? The jinn left? Yeah. So, subhanAllah, so one of the ways they say that you can tell if somebody is possessed is they speak another language they don't speak. They start speaking French, like bonjour, comment allez-vous? Like, whoa, you don't know French, you know what I mean? Like French jinn. There's French jinn, there's Buddhist jinn, there's all this. Yeah. Whoa. So you were wide awake. You were wide awake. Oh, wow. Yeah. 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 SubhanAllah. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions from the women's side? John? So yeah, so they're living in their own world, right, with us, but like we can't see them, right? They can see us, we can't see them. That's the formula. Unless they allow us to see them, then they come, then you see them. That's kind of the baseline, right? Generally, Generally, they would not interfere unless they had a they could interfere if they wanted to, I guess. Generally, the locations they live in the bathrooms. That's one place that jinn live. Live in like abandoned warehouses, like underneath, like if no one's under the highway, like places where no humans are. That's usually where they live, right? But sometimes they can, they can come in and interact. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's in general the adhkar, like the reciting surahs in the Quran, these are protections, right? From all these kinds of things, right? But then, is it a guarantee, 100%, that they will never enter your home or never, that's hard to say 100%, But you start seeing things happening. One time there was, I know a family. They went to their cousin's house. No one was home, and all three kids walked in. Like one sister, two brothers, and they walked in, and they heard a noise from the side of the house. And guys, this is like, there's nobody home. And then they tell the story now, and then you can see the face of the other ones when one tells the story, they're like, how scared they were. So I think you can, become apparent if something is there. And you can recite Surah Al-Baqarah, again, as, have Surah Al-Baqarah in the home is very good to recite. The whole thing, it'll take some time, but you can recite that and keep it playing as well. It's good. Generally speaking, like, Quran is a safe way to protect yourself from these types of things, right? Quran and dua. Yeah. And be very confident in Allah's power over all of this, right? Because Allah effectively made all these things, right? So it's like they're all scared of Allah too, So it's like when you do the Quran, you're doing it not like, I'm so scared of these again. It's like, Allah is strong, and that's the best way to protect oneself. But you shouldn't be like just scared of stuff, like whatever. It's just if it really you're scared of Allah. But sometimes we get scared of natural things like lions or supernatural things like this. But we should be only fear of Allah so that we can, be strong and come back. They can control the jinn. Like I said, the person is worshiping the jinn. And then they worship the jinn, and the jinn does things for the person. That's the illusion. That's the magician's trick. So, like, he doesn't want to admit to you, the magician doesn't want to admit to you that he's actually praying to the jinn. They're saying that, oh, I control all the jinn. But in reality, they're worshiping the jinn, then the jinn in return gives them the power, does things for them. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's they're from the time of Babylon, but I don't know where that was in the prophetic thing. I'll get back to you. 2 angels. Yeah. Good. They do. Yeah, that's what we're taught. Yeah. Yeah, it's what we're taught that they can get mad at you if you just kind of. Yeah, that's legit what we're taught. Yes, you have hot water and you just like, poof, they could didn't get mad and they could attack you. But then I don't know. It's yeah. That's what? Okay, so also we are taught that not to walk around your house because the jinn could see you. But then, I don't know. I kind of think like, well, then you could never be naked then, right? It's also like where do you shower? You know what I mean? I was just saying, right? So, but I was taught the same thing you were taught, right? I'm just thinking like, huh, right? Oh, that part's kind of weird, yeah. Some people do marry jinns, but generally speaking, it's not allowed to do that. Yeah. Let's say it again. You may find some scholars that it's okay. That's what I'm saying. Is it a sin for them? Oh, I don't know the jinn sharia. I don't know how. I don't know their rules of engagement. I don't know how that works. Yeah. So there are different types of jinn. Ifrit is the kind of big Titan jinn. And then there's Muslim jinn, Buddhist jinn, shayateen jinn, who worship shaitan, and right? So you have all kinds of, religion-wise, you have all kinds of them, right? Even categorically, there's small and big. Mafia boss. Ifrit. Ifrit are just the really powerful jinn. I'm not sure if you can be like a Muslim Ifrit or if it's only like shayateen Ifrit. Does that make sense? I'm not sure if they have like, if an Ifrit can be any religion they want to be, if it's like a jinn category. You know what I mean? He's the top jinn. He's the Godfather jinn. Yeah. Godfather bad jinn. Because there's good jinn too, right? Even the beginning of Surah al-Jinn, there's those jinn, they became Muslim, right? They were just like, whoa, like they heard the Quran, this ajaba, it was like amazing. It was like, we didn't think that, they were just, it's almost like their personal narrative. Like they were all like looking and they heard and they're like, what is this? This is so cool, it's so amazing. Ajaba was the word they used, but like, guide you to the right path, and then, you're worshiping one God. Like, it's kind of beautiful if you read the beginning of the surah, because it's like you're seeing like jinns become Muslim, and it's like the first-hand account, like convert jinns, right? It's kind of like, this is how I converted to Islam, and it's like their thing. Yeah, bad ones go to hell. Yeah, it's okay. I don't know how Allah makes space. I don't know. Yeah. So, right. That's the alamin, right? It's like mankind, jinn, the worlds. It kind of fits in that category. Yeah, that's a good ayah. Yeah. Allah didn't create jinn or mankind for any purpose reason but to worship Him. Then there has to be, you guys hear me? So there has to be Muslim jinns, really. But angels, we know they're more robotic, right? They're more just kind of hear the order, carry out the order. Like AI, just do. Yeah, but jinns have a choice, and we have a choice, right? So the angels kind of carry it out. No, yeah. So, do you remember in Surah and there's certain angels who have certain like tasks, right? Angels of Wahi, angels of the Revelation, angels of death. There's angels who have like main duties, right? But you know, in Surah Al-Baqarah, if you remember the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, the angels asked Allah, "Are you going to create something on earth that's going to cause destruction and bloodshed?" Right? So that's a little bit of a critical thinking question. It's like, well, wait a minute, and then Allah says, "I know what you don't know," right? And then, you know, and then when they saw Adam, he said, you know, Allah says to the angels again, says, "Okay, name all these animals," and they're like, right? And Adam names all the animals, and they're like, "Okay," you know. I can't answer this question right now for you. I don't know. Outside the purview of the thing, but I can write it down and get back to you, inshallah. I'm in the mode of this. This is this different topic, inshallah. Come back, talk about the Dajjal. The Dajjal should be a human, yeah. Any more questions from the women's side? Only one question came out about the sorceress. Anything else? Do you have a question? Hey, you know, when is it over? When can I go to sleep? Any other questions? Yeah, very, very interesting. SubhanAllah. One time, I'll tell you a story. I was wrapping up soon, I think. I went, there's a movie called Halloween. Do you know this movie, Halloween? It's an old movie. Mustafa Akkad was the producer. He made the movie The Message. Same person, right? Naam? Yeah, then The Message, yeah. So the home of the Michael Myers is the killer in the movie. He wears the white mask. His home, the home they shot the movie in, is in Pasadena. Okay? So I'm driving by and I see, what's this weird place? Because there's like a horror museum next door. So I park the car, and walk around this weird place, and then I walk more, and then I see it online. What is this place? Because I look at the address, and this is the house over here is where one of the other actors in the movie is in the movie. Jamie Lee Curtis, I think she's in the movie, and she's also there. So, okay, let me go see her house too. I'm already there. So walk around. So let's walk around. Then it gets darker. Like the lights just start, no lights anymore in the neighborhood. I was like, this doesn't sound good. You know, like you get the feeling, you're like, and then like I see this guy coming like this, like a motorcycle, but like it's not like, or a bicycle, but it's like very dark too. I was like, Then one guy's walking by himself. I was like, this is very bad. I started citing all the surahs. I was like, Falak, Nas, Kursi, you know, the ones talking about earlier. I was like, okay, what's gonna happen now? So I go to the house, I'm like, okay, cool. So I get my camera out, my phone dies. And I was like, La ilaha illallah. And so eventually I found my car and I got out of there real fast. My Pasadena experience. Right in Pasadena, not too far. But yeah, I hope it's beneficial, inshallah. May Allah accept. We can make a dua, inshallah ta'ala, for Palestine and for the Muslims who are suffering. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. Ya Allah, we ask you to accept our efforts for coming here tonight. We ask you to protect us from the shaitan and from from those who want to practice sihr on us and our families, practice from the shayateen. Ya Allah, we ask that you bless us with good health and good iman in this life. Ya Allah, we ask that you help the people who are suffering right now in Palestine and Gaza. Provide them with aid, provide them with relief, provide them with safety, provide them with all the rights that a human being should have and happiness. And for those who have passed away, to accept them as shaheed status, and to their families who have survived them, to give them comfort and give them strength and energy to move forward and to be on the right path and to be united with their families in the highest level of paradise. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.